Hi folks, welcome to my channel. Today I will give you some housing tips and review some of the sites that I've used while I did my housing search. I've done that 3 times by now, so I kind of now know my way around Dutch housing market, or like Dutch, accommodation market. I would like to share the things that I've learned with you so that you can save money and do not waste anything. I will start with some of the general tips and then go into the specific sites and how I review them. So first of all, let's start with the general tips. The tips that you will utilize for like any type of search that you're doing for the accommodation that you need when you come to the Netherlands. The first thing is primarily look at the recent listings. Back in the time when I was looking for like rooms and studios, I was looking at like 1 month old advertisements, but the thing is, usually those ads are not active anymore, so you're basically wasting your time looking at those ads or like trying to contact the landlord, etc. So look at like around 1 week, at most like 2 weeks old advertisements. They're usually the most active and you have like higher chance to get the apartment because you will be the earlier persons to want to see the apartment. So I would recommend start from like the 1 week interval, the most recent 1 week old ads, and then maybe a bit go until 1 month, but still I don't really recommend it. They are likely to be not so active. So that's the first tip. The second tip is you probably won't be able to get all of the things that you want from like one house. So I would suggest you make a list of your priorities in terms of what you want from the accommodation that you will get. For example, do you want the centralness? Is that like the most important thing to you? Or do you want like, is it the most important that all of the people are working or like studying in the same university or something like that? So I will suggest make sure that you know what your priority is. When I was searching for like a room when I first came here, if I look back, I think I would have made my priority to find a house where all of the other girls were also studying at the uni, and I think it will make things a lot easier. Another important tip, start looking at places early on. Of course, everybody says that, but they don't tell you that you probably won't be finding any accommodation that starts at your desired date from like 3 months before. So for example, if you want to rent a place from September on, usually most of the places that start from September will become available in the beginning of August or like end of July. So nobody tells you this fact. So when you're like when you start looking around from like 3 months on, like you might get frustrated because usually the places do not start at the desired date that you want. So know this, and also still it is important to start looking around early on because you get to learn what's on the market and like what type of place is going for what price. Even this is even valid for rooms or apartments. So it is definitely beneficial to start looking at least 3 months before, but probably you will find the place that starts at your desired date at most like 2 months ago, or most likely like 1 month ago, you'll probably find the place. So I think that could be useful for a lot of people. Another tip, don't do Airbnb. Why I am telling this is because I have a reason for telling you this. First of all, Airbnbs are super duper expensive, even in a smaller city. Like for example, Tilburg, where I had to find my first accommodation for the university. I was a master's student. And I read and heard from a lot of people that it is best to come to the Netherlands and then start looking and like viewing the places. If you have the budget, sure, go ahead and do this. But the thing is, if you will be forcing your budget to do this, I recommend not to do this because the benefits of coming here and like looking for a room is not worth it. Of course, it's another story for like actually renting apartments, etc., then it is more needed to see the place before you rent. But if you're a student and you're just going to rent a room or something like that, usually a lot of students, most of the students do that before coming to the Netherlands. And as long as the places that you're doing this, renting the place from is safe, don't waste your money. I spent like 800 euros for a month for at an Airbnb, and the place that I picked wasn't even that great, so it wasn't really worth it. So know that. And like it was 800, and also it actually had mice, several of them inside. So even if you pay that high price for an Airbnb, you still don't get something good. So I would just say, if you're a student and you're just looking for a room, don't do Airbnb. Just rent your room and come and settle in. So let's talk about some of the prices. The prices that you will expect for a room. This is not a general advice, but just so you know, I don't think there's like a lot of guidance on this from Dutch universities. So I would like to tell you like what is the price range for rooms and also apartments, maybe studios, because that's where I have experiences in. So for the rooms, the prices range from like 250. I've seen 250, and I myself stayed in a room which costs about 300 per month. So yeah, especially in the smaller cities, you can find a private room in a shared house from like 250 till 700 or maybe 750. But the lower end of this distribution is mostly true for smaller cities like Tilburg, and not true for like bigger cities where like there's a lot of demand, like Rotterdam or Den Haag. You'll usually get like the upper end for a room in Rotterdam. For example, when I was looking for rooms here in Rotterdam, I didn't see anything below 400, and usually it was like, if you want a decent place, then it's like 500 or more usually. Yeah, so just so you know, be prepared about this. For the studios, I don't know so much about the apartments, but for studios, usually it is like, it starts from 800 and it goes up from there. Like I think I've seen about like 1500 per month studios as well. Yeah, I mean the lowest is 800, but actually stayed at a place that was cheaper, about 700 per month for actually one bedroom place. But there were catches. There wasn't just one catch. There were a couple of catches. First, it was a bit in the middle of nowhere. So it was far away from the university and far away from the city center. Actually, it was in another like suburban city. The other catch was that there wasn't a laundry place in the apartment. You had to basically kind of convince one of the neighbors that they would allow you to use the washing machine in the common area. That didn't work, and I had to basically go to a laundromat, which was a bit far away. If you see anything very cheap, there might be some sort of a catch. So know that. So maybe mid-range, going for a mid-range place is the most safe. Yeah, I will say like decent studios are above 800. So this one is an important tip too. I think you can very much avoid registration and contract fees. Yeah, you have to know this, because I didn't know this, and like at the university website on housing, it said like usually registration fees are set and contract fees are normal. Yes, there are places that require registration fees and contract fees, but to be honest, there are ways that you can avoid registration and contract fees, especially if you can find a couple of people to rent an apartment together. Usually you can avoid these type of costs. For renting rooms, I think you can still avoid. I don't think like many Dutch people pay this, Dutch students, because they know how. The thing is, so don't think you have to pay registration and contract fees because there are a lot of also places that give very good service and they don't require registration or contract fees. So I will first try those options, as long as you're not very desperate and like you are sure that if you register in this place you will get the place that you want. I would avoid registration fees. I think I've wasted in registration fees for like 100 in total. So it was not necessary because I didn't use those places to actually get a place, and I ended up getting my place from agencies that didn't require registration or contract fees. I don't think you need to pay registration or contract fees. Here is another tip. I think this one is important. I think usually university reserved accommodation is the best, though I personally didn't get to experience it because they were either too expensive for me or they were just gone quickly, and there's a lot of demand for those places. As long as you can kind of somewhat manage the rent within your budget, I will try to get one of these and just do not deal with any private market places. I think this one is important, and I will suggest you go with the university reserved accommodation, but I know that that's not always possible. It wasn't possible for me. Usually they were very, very expensive, but yeah, that is my advice. Okay, another general advice: always check whether the agency you are using is a legitimate agency, so whether it is registered at the commercial registration of the Netherlands. You can check that with like usually these agencies have a commercial ID, so you can check that. And the second thing I would always do is to check Google reviews. I think that's a lot of helpful as well. Usually all of the agencies have kind of negative stuff, but you can still see whether it's scam type of stuff or no. Okay, those were my tips overall. Now let's go into detail on which websites I used and what I think of them. So first of all, I would like to get this out of the way because I really don't like this company or website. So there's this website or service called Holland to Stay, and they do require a registration fee. So Holland to Stay has this lottery system for the living units that has a lot of demand, such as, for example, in Rotterdam there were studio type places for 700 or something like that, which is a good price. I think that was excluding rent, but still it is hard to find places like that. I did get registered, but then I've learned that you can only register one lottery at a time. So that means every 2 weeks you just have one chance basically to get into a lottery and not win. Usually there are lots of people, so your winning chances are slim. So the thing is, I think in some other places they have more, reasonable places. But in Rotterdam, aside from the lottery places, other living units were 1,000 excluding per month. So you also have to, when I say excluding, you also have to pay for the bills, which is about 200, 300 bills and services. And they require you to have 3,000 euros per month gross salary. So basically it was, my only option was the lottery, and it was very hard to win the lottery, and you only had one chance every 2 weeks or so. So it is, I think, that it was a mistake. But I have another friend who rented from there, but she was willing to pay over 1,000 for a place. So if you are willing to pay non-lottery places, then it might be worth it, but otherwise not so much. All right, now more useful sites. Those are Funda.nl and Paravius.nl, I think, but I'll check it and put it here and down below. So those are, I think, the best websites because usually their adverts are very active. So you can, for example, when you write to a landlord, you get an answer in a couple of weeks. At least that has been my experience. So, and I think, yeah, I didn't see any scammy offers like sales. I think it is, those are okay places to look around. Funda is not so much for rooms, but it is mostly for apartments. But it is pretty, yeah, it is, I think I will say it is a pretty safe website and pretty legit, and landlords are usually very interactive. So that's good. Per use is basically an aggregation of all of the agencies in like one website. Still, you have to deal with the agency, so you are not dealing with the per use, but you will, if you want to get a place, you will have to contact the agency that's giving the advert of a place. They are not, the website is not responsible for that, so you cannot really judge how an agency will be or will not be, or like whether the service is good or not. That still is up to the agency, but usually the adverts are, you might consider applying, but still, yeah, it is a good idea to try to see the place, or at least make sure that it's safe. Per use also has room listings, so you can try it out. I've also tried Kamernet, but I didn't like it very much because usually I didn't get any answers from like the places that I applied, so that was a problem. I need to check this, but I think it requires some sort of a registration fee, which I don't recommend paying. You have per use, why would you do that with Kamernet? I guess Kamernet is more room focused, so it has more listings of rooms, but still, I didn't like it. I've also tried a website that is specific to Tilburg. That's Kamerbemiddelingtilburg. Actually, that was a place that I rented my room from on the first year that I came to the Netherlands when I was doing my master's. Yeah, their service is not very good, which is usually the case and they require registration and contract fees. Their service was not very good. The house was not very well managed, and like their interactions were a bit, how to say, wasn't all that nice always. So in general, I think first, if I went back in time, I will try to get the university reserved places. I would really kind of like, call the place, bug the place, because that's kind of like how you get it here when the demand is so high. I will try to first get into the reserved accommodation. If that doesn't work, then I will try to gather some group of people from the uni to basically rent a house together. I also tried another one that again required a registration fee. Again, I didn't actually rent from there. So this is called Bvwonen. That is again like special to, I think, Tilburg. It has Tilburg listings. It has registration fee and it has contract fee, and the owner of this place drives a Tesla. So I think you get the idea. So it wasn't very good. I didn't find any places. And the last option is, of course, always Facebook. You can try Facebook groups for your specific city. Usually there are people looking for like a fourth person to share an apartment together. Like, yeah, usually like university students, etc. There's a lot of those adverts. So I would also try that. Or like you can try to find an apartment and try to find people in these pages, groups. For me, again, I didn't use it. I mean, I checked it out, but I never rented a place from Facebook. So these are all of my tips and reviews for accommodation and housing search in the Netherlands for students and even like young professionals. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have questions. I hope it wasn't confusing. Thanks for listening. Bye.